And here we are again, you guys. Happy Friday night. Happy Sabbath.
Yeah, that's
Happy
right. Happy
Sabbath.
Sabbath. Happy Sabbath.
Indeed,
All
indeed,
right.
indeed. Hey, we're missing somebody and we gained somebody. What's going on, Dr. Henry?
Right. Well, listen, Pastor Wade wasn't able to be on there tonight. He has a real busy schedule. And so we got now Stephanie Scott, who's a part of the team. Listen, if you don't see Stephanie Scott on when we're live, trust me, she's still on because she's watching us and making sure that we're in order. So it's good to have our friend, our co-host, our team member tonight, Miss Stephanie Scott.
Thank you. It's good to be here. My first time this year. Not that the year is long, but I'm here in the first month, so it's good to be back.
Hey, all right. Always good to have you. Now, I know that my mic is not my normal mic tonight, and people probably aren't going to hear me as well as normal, so I'm going to try not to talk a whole lot tonight, just so that audio quality stays where we want it. But Steph, run us through what we see over there for this side. Yes, this side, January.
So,
What have we missed? What have we missed, and what do we have to look forward to?
so I would encourage our viewers, if you did not see our first two episodes in
Mm,
season 8, you have missed a treat. Our first Friday night in January, we had Keith Burton on discussing um, Israel and the conflict and kind of what we're hearing in the news. And he is a very deep person. So I felt like I had gone to a master's class. But
That's
we
right.
encourage you to go back and view that. And then last Friday night, had an awesome discussion around pastor and teacher shortages here in North
wow.
American Division specifically. And so again, an absolutely fantastic program with great guests. And I would encourage you to go back and view that. Lots of good information. Oh, and
Oh,
tonight we got a couple things. So I don't know if you want me to go on through that, but
yeah.
I'll let
Well,
you
well,
take
we're
it.
going to talk about tonight. Talk us what's happening next week.
Next week, we're going to be talking about the 2025 project, and that is an episode that is going to be extremely interesting in
Mm,
our political season. We are in an election year, and uh, there are powers that be. There are influencers out there that uh, have a lot of influence on our leadership in the country. And so we want to be conscious voters. And that program next week is going to be something that I think is going to be particularly interesting for those of you who have an interest in politics in the United States. And I would encourage you,
Mhm.
whether you have an interest or not, you might want to watch it because there are some correlations with prophecy and some of the things that we know are going to happen before Christ's return. And so, again, encourage you to tune in next week.
all right, all right. Good stuff, good
Right.
stuff. Which
That's
brings
right.
us
That's
to
right.
tonight. Dr. Henry, what are we talking
Yeah.
about tonight? What's on the table? Wait a minute. Before we even do
Wait,
that,
we gotta share. Yeah,
yeah, come on,
we
come
gotta
on. We got to
share,
make that
Pastor
pitch. Come
Paul.
on, Doc.
Listen, man. Look, every Friday night that you see the Pastors Roundtable on, you got to do something. You got to share this thing because I'm telling you, we're bringing out fresh, relevant, resourced, and real information to you. And I believe that as we get this information, as we kind of look in and hear the conversation, it's going to help us to look at things differently and
Yeah.
make some improvements by God's grace so that we could be more effective. And so tonight, we do have a great program on tonight. Now, I tell you, I'm reading a book and it's talking about, listen, it's good to have wealth. Wealth is good. Praise God for wealth. Abraham was wealthy. We can go on and on
Okay.
with the people in the Bible who are wealthy. But guess what? Wealth is not as important as your health, right? So we're
Come
going
on
to
now.
dive into to our health. Now, we're going to talk about health not only in talking about just a broad variety of people, but we're also going to talk about the health of your leaders, especially your pastors. And so
Oh
this is
boy.
going to be a great show on tonight. Please, again, please invite your elders, invite your health ministry leaders, invite your pastor, because the information tonight is going to be an eye opener. It's going to be an eye opener. And by God's grace, we'll make improvements as we become more effective for Christ.
All right, Dr. Henry, real quick. I think last week we had about 40 or so shares. Do you have a goal for shares tonight about how many times by the end of the night, how many times we want to share this thing?
Listen. I know that we used to have a lot of shares at one time, right? When everybody was home, it was COVID. We were sharing. Last week we have 40. Pastor Paul, I don't know. Can we do 60? Can we do 60 shares? Is that too low? I know I want to go for 100, but last week was 40. Love 100, but can we do 60? Can we just do 60 shares tonight?
I think we can. I think we can do it. All right, so that's the goal, 100 shares. So if you're watching right now, one of the easiest ways to help us out is to hit that thumbs up button or to hit that share button. I know that those of you that are on Facebook, it's real easy. You've got that share thing. Those of you that are watching, though, on YouTube, it might be a little bit more difficult. You've got to kind of copy a link and share it, but that can happen too. Share it to your WhatsApp, share it to, I guess, copy and paste it and put it in your text message and share it with somebody, because this is going to be a fascinating discussion tonight. Who is at the table tonight? Stephanie, Dion, somebody talk to me. That's what's on the table. Who is at the table tonight?
Okay. All
We're
right.
going to let Dion give the introduction, but I just want to give a quick shout out and also ask our viewers, like we do every week, just give us a shout out from where you're watching from. I see one of our faithful viewers, Sister Patrick, from the Twin Islands of Trinidad and Tobago on. And so we want to say good evening and happy Sabbath to her, along with Sister Johnson, Cassandra Johnson, Carlos Medley. So we see you all here. And so if you're watching, we ask that you give us a shout out and tell us where you're from. Wish folks in the chat happy Sabbath. But let me throw it to Dion and he can give us the introduction of who's going to be at the table today.
All right. Well, listen, look, I tell you, we are entering into All-Star Weekend. So in a couple of weeks, it's going to be All-Star Weekend, right? It's going to be All-Star Weekend when you come to the NBA. It's going to be the Pro Bowl weekend when you come to the NBA. Let me tell you something. We have an All-Star team on tonight. So first, I want to introduce to you Dr. Woodfork Coleman, Kathy Woodfork Coleman. She is from the NAD Health Ministry. She is the Health Ministry Intervention Coordinator. Again, it's the Intervention Coordinator. Wow. And I'm telling you, she has a wealth of experience, and she's going to bring it to us tonight. So I'm excited about listening to her, as she talks about health and answer these questions that we have. Then we also have the one and only Dr. Medley. Let me tell you something about Dr. Medley. He is a pastor at heart, just pastored the Brinklow SDA church down there in the DMV. My cousins happened to go to that church, did an awesome job, and then he is now working with the health ministry department as the director of the Allegheny East Conference. He is an alumnus of the PRT. So he has been here before.
That's right.
And so we're so happy to have him here. Now, the next one I'm going to introduce to you, let me tell you something. He is no stranger. This man is creative. He is an innovator, and that's none other than Dr. Thompson, Christopher Thompson. Now, let me tell you about him. Right now, he's a church planter. All right. So he is taking on a massive project right now that's doing very well. And also when it comes to technology, he is at the forefront. He is an encourager, motivator. I'm so happy to have him on here tonight on the Pastors Roundtable.
All right. Well, let's bring him on. Here they are, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Thompson, Doctor. I said Doctor. We're gonna call you Doctor tonight, Dr. Coleman, because we didn't change that that title. And Dr. Medley, welcome, welcome, welcome. So excited to have all of you with us tonight. We're gonna start our discussion tonight with a word of prayer, and then we're gonna give you just a brief moment to greet our audience, to just share with them just a little bit about yourselves, more than we just shared, and where you are and what you're doing. But before we do that tonight, I'm going to ask our co-host tonight, Stephanie, if you would just open us up with a word of prayer.
Sure. Father in heaven, we first of all thank you for this Sabbath day that we have an opportunity to rest. Lord, we know that rest is one of your health principles. And as we were discussing Pastor's health this evening, I pray and ask that you would help our discussion to be rich, help the information to be pertinent. And dear Father, at the end of this program, we ask that your name will be glorified. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen, amen, amen. All right, we're going to start from my left to my right with Dr. Thompson, then Dr. Coleman, and Dr. Medley. Chris, just give us a little bit a scope of where you are, what you're doing. Shout out whoever you want to shout out. Talk to us, man. Greet our audience. Time is yours.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for you all having me on. Um, I'm privileged and glad to be here. I hope that my internet connection is not horrible. I'm in Clinton, Tennessee, the sticks of Clinton, Tennessee, getting ready for the summer, our Freedom School program this summer. But I'm especially excited to be here tonight to talk about pastors' health. I believe that we are being healed and called to be healers at the same time. So I'm excited to talk about health and the journey towards health.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, Ms. Coleman.
Good evening, everyone. It is a privilege to be with you this evening, and I do thank you for inviting me. Um, I have a background in nursing. I'm a nurse health educator for almost 50 years, and 35 of those years I worked with the Adventist healthcare system. I
Wow.
currently am the intervention coordinator for the Pastor's Health and Wellness Initiative. And I'm just happy to be here to share um, some much needed information to our viewers.
Awesome. So glad to have you. And
Mhm.
Dr. Medley, the alumnus here at the PRT. Greetings, sir. Time is yours.
Good evening and Shabbat Shalom, and to our distinguished guests and panelists. Thank you all for allowing me to join you again, and thank you for this phenomenal podcast. And please let Roger Wade know that he is missed tonight, that his good friend Tony Medley misses him. But I'm so grateful to be on with others that are here, and especially to see the strength and success of this podcast. Thank you for the vision and for following through, for the sustainability that this podcast has in reaching so many people. I just praise God for the three of you tonight. And I'm Anthony Medley, Health Ministries Director for the Allegheny East Conference.
All right, all right. Well, buckle up, everybody. It's time to get going.
Let's
Let's
get
hop
in.
into
Yeah.
these questions. Let's go. Stephanie, take us in.
All right. Well, I guess my first question I have is for Ms. Woodfork. The Seventh-day Adventist Church, we have a wonderful health message and have been traditionally known for our health message. Um, what do we know about the health of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in comparison to those who are non-Adventists? I know recently I've been seeing commercials, and I want to say that there are these areas like Loma Linda that we hear about having this rich history, or rich health background. So, can you tell us a little bit about maybe some comparisons with the Adventist health message, the Adventist Church versus our non-Adventist counterparts?
Well, when God made man, he intended that we would live forever. And then the fall came. But he still wanted us to be in good health. And so God gave us the health message. Now, through the years, we have seen how Adventists have demonstrated an ability to live longer. And some of you may have heard about the blue zones.
Hmm.
Dan Buettner, back in 2010, wrote a book after his research looking across the world at where people live the longest, anyone who lived past 100 years old. And he found 5 areas where that was the case: Okinawa, Japan; Icaria, Greece; Sardinia; the Nicoya Peninsula; and then our own Loma Linda University.
Hmm.
Seventh-day Adventists were highlighted and spotlighted during this time, proudly so, with our health message that was given to us at almost the very beginning of Adventism, of the Adventist Church. And through the years that preaching this health message has resulted in us shining before the world and showing them that if you live right, if you live as God intended, you're going to live longer even on this earth.
Mm.
And so the research that has been being done out of Loma Linda University and the Adventist Health Study has demonstrated that Adventists live about 11 years longer than the regular person on the street. And
Mm.
so we have the opportunity to share this message with others. And to some degree, the world has caught up with Adventism.
Oh my.
Hmm.
And almost anywhere you go today, you can eat vegetarian food, you can eat vegan food, and the research bears out um, even um, outside of the Adventist realm that shows that it is in fact true that if you live a certain way, if you eat a certain way, if you exercise, if you follow the 8 laws of health, you have the opportunity to live a better quality life and a longer life.
Mm.
That's good. That's
Can,
good. That's good.
can I get a follow? Can I do a follow up really quickly? And I said Ms. Woodfork, but it is Miss Coleman. Miss Coleman. So let me clarify that. Just a quick follow up question. Um, a lot of times Adventists, we also hear not only the health message, but we're very specific in pieces of the health message, ideally with meals, eating right and eating healthy. Um, ha- does the study or any studies that you've done include the other principles of the health message? So the rest, the water, sunlight, etc.
There is a lot of information that bears true in regards to proper hydration, drinking lots of water, the benefits of sunlight, fresh air, trust in God. We even have studies that
Hmm.
have been done on people who attend church
That's right. Yeah.
or people who pray or read their Bible regularly, how much healthier they are. And so the answer is yes to your question. The other
Hmm.
areas of um, are also bearing that if you do these things as God has commanded, you will be healthier, you'll have a better quality of life, you will live longer.
Good.
Hmm.
Did I answer your
Yeah.
question?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, you did.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna mention this. I don't know, Pastor Paul, you have a question, but just a follow up on that. Yeah, there are other areas, as you mentioned, that contribute to a healthy lifestyle. Now, I know Dr. Medley. I was at the call, back about 2 years ago. And they were featuring some different options of what people can do. And so can you tell us a little bit about what you do that's very specific and unique that helps out your
Uh, uh,
overall health? Maybe you could read my
and
mind
yeah,
what
and
I'm
I'll be
talking about.
well. I'll be glad to. Can I segue back to the original question and then connect those two together,
Yes,
if I can?
yes, sir.
I think it's important from a historical perspective that Kathy Coleman has correctly identified the benefits of the this holistic health message that was entrusted to the church. But I think from a historical perspective that we have to change the narrative still a little bit. If you think about the
Mm,
first comprehensive health vision that we received on June 6, 1863, there was 1863 and September 25th, 1865, where we find the bookends of Ellen White's comprehensive health vision to the newly formed Seventh Adventist Church. So remember, this is 6 months after the Emancipation Proclamation. So the original 1863 health message did not directly speak to liberated, freed people, but it spoke more to an early church that was existent. So it took some years, centuries, still
hmm
have trying to catch up to the comprehensive health message to speak to communities of color. Okay, so I think we got to always have that context in mind that the message God gave to the church is important for the church, but initially it didn't speak to people of color in the church because we were just liberated. And in those first 2 years, as all of you know, we were liberated without much of anything. And the suffering, the sickness that took place, we couldn't talk to our people then about the 8 laws of health when we were just trying to survive. But it is important today. Now, segue and now, reason why that is important to me is because I believe that success of our health message is when God gives us the ability to be innovative and creative and to find dynamic ways of living this life that He has entrusted to us. And one of the things that I have done that you saw the call convention is that I'm a lifelong martial artist. And I use martial artists as a platform of teaching physical and spiritual disciplines of how individuals can
mm,
grow. More than how you can fight, how you can live is really the platform for doing that. And I have discovered that I reach more people in terms of holistic health one on one in a dojo than I can in a pulpit. It makes a critical difference for that. So, the only message I would suggest that whatever your passions are, it could be bowling, turn it to an opportunity to reach somebody holistically. That's the message for
mm.
whatever we have to do. And that's what God expects of us. I'll stop there.
That's good stuff. Good stuff. Chris, anything to add on that?
I would just add, Dr. Medley is a martial artist. I've been an athlete all my life. Uh, Primarily as I've gotten older, it's been running. I can't dunk anymore, but I can run for as long as you can imagine, and I can walk longer than most people would care to. Uh, so I try to find creative ways to remain healthy and to stay balanced.
Good
But
stuff. Good stuff.
also, I think too, it's important for us to enter the need for increased awareness about emotional and mental health and wellness because that's an area that we haven't talked about enough, and it's an area that
Mm.
our community definitely needs to focus more on.
Good, good.
Mm.
Listen, just before we go any further, I am hearing just a tad bit of feedback in the mic system. So I'm just going to ask all of us, when we aren't talking, if we just mute, it'll save some of your feedback coming from your speakers back into your mic. But then don't forget to unmute when it's time for you to just to speak up, say something. All right, here's I want to segue into the next question. So we started off talking about the Adventist population at large compared to the general population. Awesome information that we have in studies like the Blue Zone studies and several others that talk about the impact and the value of the Adventist health message. Most of those studies have been done on general populations, both of the Adventist Church and of the society at large. Do we have information on leadership within the Seventh-day Adventist Church when it comes to the health of our leaders and our leadership. What are some of the primary health risks that you guys have come across for specifically for pastors? Are there health risks because of the vocation, because of what pastors do? What might some of those things be, those risk factors, and do we have any information that kind of isolates or separates information, health information on pastors versus the rest of the population? Let's start with Dr. Medley, and then we'll go down the line. Anybody have anything to add with that?
Yeah, the brief answer is yes. In fact, in terms of leadership, let me start from there. That uh, many of you may know or may not know that this is a matter identifying the health issues among pastors is a critical component of the North American division, both the ministerial department under Dr. Williams and the health ministries department under Dr. Angeline Brewer. I was a part of them. The three of us a few years ago went to Duke University to look at their study on the United Methodist pastors in the state of North Carolina. And we went there to get a blueprint of how to address looking at the health of Seventh Adventist pastors. And the last call convention that we went to was really the byproduct of that study that was done and the information that was done. I'm mentioning now, you'll see it, of course, the book Minden Ministers is a book that specifically was written by Adventist pastors for Adventist pastors in matters of holistic health. And I think it's the personal testimonies in that book that are most meaningful of individuals who stepped away from ministry, individuals who are open about their own journeys, the emotional wellness, other family factors that mean so much because pastors often suffer in isolation. It's good to have resources where pastors can talk about the dynamics of what it's like to be a pastor. And the truth be told, pastors suffer from the same thing that the general population suffers from. But issues of burnout are critical with pastors. That's a major issue. Emotional trauma and issues are isolation, depression, sedentary lifestyle produces a number of issues that impact pastors. And one of the critical problems is because pastors have such a public life, often they don't get the opportunity to go through the steps of healing and recovery and privacy. It happens in the public view. The criticism happens. If a person is overweight, if a pastor is struggling with health issues, or if a pastor comes across as being aloof and different, there are reasons for that. And we don't get to those core issues of what's driving that. So there are a number of issues that impact pastors. I'm going to stop there because, again, I am passionate about this also, but the others have much to say about it in addition to me.
All right. Anybody else want to take a stab at that? Yes. Feel like I'm in Zoom now. Yep. Got to unmute, Chris.
Sorry about that. I will add that the Barna Group released a study some years ago talking about the issues related to pastors' health, right? And that pastoral ministry is graying, right? So this is conversations that are being had even beyond Adventism. In the recent years, we've seen some high-profile pastoral suicides. So we know that there are lots of pressing issues, and Dr. Medley talked about burnout and the pastors who are demonstrating, high stress. I mean, that's just the high stress levels is just the norm for a pastor. And then he even mentioned, navigating traumatic experiences. It's almost like pastors are in this consistent cycle of experiencing trauma through other people's lives. And so we have our own trauma that we deal with, but then we have to process the trauma of other families and and parishioners who we have the privilege of ministering to, right? So it's our job and it's our privilege to minister to them, but then we have also to navigate the fallout, the loss, the trauma of watching them and sharing with them in traumatic experiences. And so that stuff takes a toll. That stuff wears on you. And I don't know. I mean, let me just speak for myself. I don't believe we were taught how to navigate that, how to decompress and how to process and how to step away. We were taught that when the members call you, you go, right? But sometimes, what do we do to make sure that we recharge and replenish? That's the balance that I think ultimately weighs on our not just emotional health but our physical health as well.
Okay.
Can I ask?
Oftentimes,
Oh,
oh,
go ahead,
sorry.
please.
Oftentimes, our pastors have so much to deal with, and their lives oftentimes are nonstop. We think about a work week of Monday through Friday, and many of us say, thank God it's Friday. But just think about it. After a pastor has worked all week long, then there's Sabbath, the hardest working day of their week. And so, we look at issues with high stress, as Pastor Medley said, burnout. There's so much going on. And then I want to just remind us about the pandemic that we have just experienced, where pastors were dealing with so many issues, especially with the high level of deaths and funerals. I've heard pastor after pastor talk about how it affected them personally, just having to um, deal with the many deaths that happened during that time. We haven't really mentioned much about the effects of the pastor's schedule on the family of the pastor. We need to look at not just pastor's health, but the pastor's family's health as well. So there are a lot of issues that are involved in this conversation.
Is there any one thing or two things that you guys have seen or would just whether it's just from your personal experience or any data that you've seen that is a major contributing factor for health issues that pastors face? Would it be stress? Would it be diet? Would it be a lack of exercise? What are some of those things that seem to rank really high that contribute to some of the health issues that pastors are facing?
I
You,
think
you
that
know,
the
I'll
one thing,
start with.
Yep, go ahead. Let's start with Sister Coleman
go
and
ahead,
then
Pastor.
Dr. Medley.
Well, I was just going to echo what you mentioned already, the stress of life, the fast pace. Um, we talk about members who have no idea of what the pastor's going through, and they're just inundated ongoing with issues. And so stress just leads over time to that burnout situation. And our pastors have been struggling, and we want them to know that we understand, we hear them, we want to address the issues. There's no time for vacations. There are financial issues involved. So there's so many issues that we could address, here this evening.
Okay. All right, Dr.
And
Medley.
I would add to all that Kathy just said. And, the key words for me are balance and boundaries. Uh, those are completely blurred in ministry. And it's not even a culture in ministry that respects boundaries and balance. And that's something that has to really be established. There almost has to be an agreement of how to do that, especially with the pastor and the pastor's family, because the absence of those things, we create all the other dynamics that we have, and sometimes some pastors have been miseducated with the hero complex. So there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of undoing that has
Oh
to
my.
take place to put those boundaries and the balance in place to be honored by the pastor and also the congregation.
And might
let
I
me add to
add, I think, I'm sorry, can I just add? I think, Dr. Medley, you're absolutely right. I think that agreement also needs to be made at the conference level. I know I'm not a guest, so I'm a guest host, so I'm gonna interject that in. The conferences need to help create that, or give that permission to the pastor to be able to do some of those things. So I think it's both the congregation as well as the conference support needed by the pastors.
Mm-hmm.
And you're
so
100%
the
correct. I know that Allegheny East, there is a priority set up to make sure pastors take vacations, they take time off. If there are financial stressors, to have direct, private, confidential conversations with Treasury Department. You are absolutely right. So it's from the conference all the way down, but it still has to take place. But I'm thinking that where congregations, where you have individuals in local churches who are committed to the well-being of their pastors, who can have those honest conversations, that becomes the incubator for how transformation can take place.
I
Good
think
stuff.
that
Mm-hmm.
so
member education is important here. Sometimes the members of the church are just not aware, and they do
Mm.
need to understand about boundaries and balance.
Wow. Good stuff. Chris?
So and then it's on us. It's on us to establish those boundaries and to model balance, right? And so I'm going to be as a pastor, as a local pastor, I'm going to be transparent and say this is an indication of imbalance in my own life. So I will work all day, and actually, so I think somebody mentioned this in a comment. I will work all day and not eat because I'm
Mm.
just working, right? I'm so focused on the work. I'm going from here to there, and shout out to the pastors who pastor districts, churches that are very far apart. I know for a fact because I
Yeah.
used to pastor a district, churches were an hour and a half. Sometimes you don't have time but to stop at McDonald's or to stop at some other horrible fast food place to get something to eat.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're on your way to see the people, you're on your way to care for the people. So that's the imbalance. But then there's the boundaries. We will often brag that we haven't taken a vacation, that we haven't had any sleep, that we haven't been able to take care of ourselves because it is a part of the culture of parish ministry that we are wearing ourselves out, that we are wearing
Right.
ourselves to death. And that's just a part of the work, and that's a shame, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
Mm.
Listen,
No,
I
that's
want to
powerful
take an
stuff.
opportunity, Dion, just to shout out those members because there are some of you out there, and we love you to death. Where pastor's in his office all day long, and you just stop by and bring that plate of food. God bless you. Um, we we appreciate you. You stop by down here in South Florida. You might bring a mango or some breadfruit or something and just drop that off.
Right.
That's huge. And some members may be wondering how can we support those who are caring for us. Those little things like that, they go a long way. And just on behalf of my colleagues, I just want to say thank you for those of you who think about your pastors in little ways like that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a blessing.
Pastor,
Blessing.
if I
Go
could
ahead.
add to that, I think that's powerful. Something else that, and this is a personal testimony for me, that has been salvific in my holistic health journey for a pastor in a local church. And this will be another show. Faith community nursing. When you have a faith community
Ah.
nurse that prioritizes the health and well-being of the pastor and the pastor's family, it's a game changer. When they're laser focused on your health and well-being. And I know that's a whole nother meeting, but for pastors who have never heard of faith community nursing, what it is and what it
Yes.
means, not only to the congregation and community, but what it means to the individual pastor. I've said, and I'm on record saying this, that I would never pastor again without a faith community nurse.
Hmm.
So
Listen, you just
it's
dropped
a
something
game
right there,
changer.
Doc.
Yeah,
Really.
I'm gonna have to Google that one.
Listen,
That was yeah,
no, no. Listen, wait,
that's
hold on.
good.
You dropped a bomb on us. Now, listen. When I was at Oakwood, we did the just in December. Uh, was I talking to you, Sister Coleman, about faith community nursing? I think you were you there? I think Dr. Thompson was Sister.
Yes,
You were
sir.
there.
That
That's
was
right.
me.
And right, and you were telling me about faith community nurse. Can you just spend maybe 2 minutes talking about that because I think that is critical. I'm with Dr. Medley. Talk about that a little bit and what that entails.
I would love to. That's one of my favorite topics. A faith community nurse is a nurse who is dedicated and is specially trained to take care of the needs of a congregation. And what does that include? First, the pastor and the pastor's family. Second, the staff. Third, the members. And then fourth, the wider community. A faith community nurse and a pastor is the perfect team. And one of the ways that a pastor can um, elicit boundaries is to have a faith community nurse. She will be his or her protector. She will help educate the church members about boundaries and how to respect the pastor's time and his health. I say his or her health. Faith community nurses are invaluable in the way that they can complement what the pastor does. Um, he or she will bring to the table information that education, that experience that they have received in the medical world and complement it with the spiritual aspect. So they're looking at every member holistically, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. So I would like at some point for us to be able to have another time when we can really share more information about faith community nursing. But we do want to let the pastors know that they don't have to tackle everything alone by themselves.
Mm,
They can have a partner that will help them with visitation, with taking care of issues that will free them up so that they can do ministry.
I love it. I love it. Once I talked with you at Pelk, I immediately told my health ministry team. I said, look into this. So we are looking into that. I know there's a whole course and regiment that they got to do and so forth. But yeah, I think that's one topic definitely we can cover at some point in time so that it can encourage our members and our churches to involve that type of ministry. I love it. Um, so on that vein, there is this health, this is project called Healthy Pastors Project, right? And I don't, was it a part of that survey that I took as well? The
Yes.
pastors leadership conference. But there's this healthy pastoral pastors project that's out there. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is about? And I'm going to go right to Sister Coleman again to kind of talk about that, and then we'll go to Dr. Thompson and back to Dr. Medley.
This project was born out of the struggle of pastors. When the ministerial director, Ivan Williams, heard pastors were struggling. He knew that something must be done. And Dr. Medley already talked a little bit about the history of putting that together. There's a partnership between ministerial and health ministry. They have come together specifically and intentionally looking at the health of pastors. We have a committee that meets on a monthly basis looking at pastors' health. There have been a good number of research studies. There have been focus groups conducted. There have been one-on-ones with pastors just trying to extrapolate what are the problems that you're experiencing? What are the needs that you have? And so this project is intentional about addressing those issues, not just on a one by one basis, but across the system. We want there to be a standard program where pastors can be sure that they are respected, well cared for, that their health is a priority, that their needs are being addressed.
Love it. Dr. Thompson?
So I was when I first heard about it, I was impressed and amazed that the church has taken these extensive steps to look at pastors' health and to address some of the needs of pastors. And so I was directed. They said that there's a ton of research on the website. So I went to the NAD ministerial website and saw the extensive research about pastoral ministry in the future, the longevity of pastors. There's all this information about about research, and so I was able to make my small contribution in talking with Sister Woodfork Coleman. I shared a little bit of my story on the NAD Best Practices blog about when my father committed suicide and how it forced me to look at my emotional health, and then my own personal journey with maintaining balance and thinking about grieving and leading while grieving, right? So I was willing and able to add my little 2 cents, but I'm thankful that the church is looking at the comprehensive matter of pastor's health.
Dr. Medley?
And I'll simply add that I'm glad for the Pelk initiative and the participation of more people of color. And a lot of the studies that are done, we're not always highly represented in those studies. And that's been one of the concerns that we have voiced, those of us who sit on these committees and look at the data and the information. So it is important that we encourage pastors not only to participate in studies, in surveys and studies, but also like Doc Thompson has, and more of us, talk and tell your story. It's one thing to collect the data, which is necessary for research, but it's also another
Mm-hmm.
thing to have safe spaces where pastors can share their own health journey and their health stories. It makes a difference and it impacts so many others. So that's all I want to add to it. Participate when you see it, don't run from it, and also look for opportunities to strengthen, to find support, and share our common stories. Although the struggles are different, the commonality is we're all in it together.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to do a little bit of a follow up. I had a question, but I'm gonna shift it a little bit. I'm hearing you all talk a lot about the pastors looking for information. And I need to give a little caveat because you all have not necessarily met me. I'm the HR director for South Central Conference. And so this topic is extremely important to me from an HR standpoint. Having a good workforce, a good, healthy, physical, mental, emotional, like a good workforce translates ideally into good churches, generally speaking, good schools, etc. Um, that being said, to go back to the question, I've heard you talk a lot about the pastors and them reaching out and what's available to them. Is there anything within the project that speaks directly to leadership, so to conference presidents or unions? Like, what is their role in supporting the pastors in having this healthy lifestyle? Because I think pastors are caught in the middle between trying to satisfy their congregations, but also feel oftentimes, I think, the pressure to perform their job as an employee of a conference. So, what is the role of the employer of the conference to support our pastors and our schools? And I'll throw that to Pastor Medley, Dr. Medley, if you can share what your thoughts are in terms of what
I
the role
was,
is for the conference.
yeah, the conference has a significant role. So, and I also see some things in the chat that needs to be addressed. But one of those is, as HR director for your conference, you know, one of the critical areas that Treasury looks at, and probably you also in your area, is costs, and especially insurance costs. So, how do we reduce those things? How do we make things more affordable? Well, one of it, what are the preventable things that we put in place to lower the impact of stress and lifestyle on pastors? So I think being proactive and coming up with more preventable things is something that can come from the conference to make the difference. You know, someone put in the chat, and I appreciate the comments about pastors being too busy because of additional work and so forth. Well, when I see those things, and those do happen, why is it? Is a person being sent to a high area of living and they financially can't afford it? Do we factor in the impact on the family before moves are made, and primarily the cost of things where they are? Sometimes pastors are put in positions where, in order to support their families, they find themselves doing other things to supplement income so that they can pay the rent or pay the mortgage. So I think that the conference has an obligation that, since we call them, and I think we should hold our colleagues accountable. But in order to truly hold you accountable, we have to make sure that everything is there for your success. Then the accountability matches. When I put everything in place to see to it that you will thrive, then it's easier for me to hold you accountable. So I think there is a role for the conference in terms of looking at the health and well-being of pastors to be more intentional about providing the holistic resources that are needed. From sabbaticals, that should be able to take place. There's an NAD policy on sabbaticals now for up to 3 months. Pastors should be able to take those sabbaticals without having to do a project while they're on sabbatical. Those type of
Mhm.
thing, a sabbatical, what it is. There again, there should be that you should monetize vacations. There are ways to give incentives to help pastors to do more. And that's just a few things that I think of that can help how the conference can help the pastor. You're smiling because you're probably already doing the things that I've mentioned.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
it's
trying.
You know, one of the
fascinating.
things that we have,
Go ahead.
sorry,
Yes, go right ahead.
one of the things that we have noticed in our research and in talking to the different levels of the church, because we not only talk with the local pastor, but we also talk with ministerial directors and health directors, we talk with presidents. We have found that different things are happening in different conferences. There are some conferences who really make health a priority, and some of the things that Dr. Medley just mentioned, and then other conferences are not. And it is our hope, our plan, our intention to make it standardized across the board. If I move from one conference that has a high level of priority for health and wellness and focusing on the pastor and their family. And then I moved to another conference who have other priorities. Um, then I'm feeling like I'm not receiving what I should be receiving. We should have a program that is standardized and across the board, and that's what we're looking to put into effect.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was going to mention in regard to somebody and a number of people have mentioned the financial aspect. Um, and Doc Medley, I know you mentioned that oftentimes pastors are trying to compensate. I think, and, I have seen in many different fields, particularly my own, where there is a cost of living allowance that is given to pastors, but I've seen pastors move from one area, a region of the conference, to another where the cost of living, just for housing, increased by 45%, but the cost of living given by the conference to be commensurate to that was like 2 or 3%. And so they were still 40 something percent behind in terms of being able to do what they were doing from the place that they were moved from. Those are things that I believe cause some stress to a pastor. He's got children that are supposed to be in church school, so he's not like other folk who have the option in many cases to send them to a public school without the tuition and all of those things. And so all of those things begin to kind of stack up, and then provide or produce that kind of a stress that induces some of these other physical manifestations that we're talking about tonight. All right, we're going to ask our guests to stay put for just a second. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come right back. So don't go anywhere, guests. Don't go anywhere, audience. We want to talk to you about a couple of interesting things right quick. We will be right back. So Dr. Henry, Stephanie, what's your take so far, man?
Well, listen, I want to say this. This show is really, really vital because it's talking about the health of the pastor and the points that they're bringing out. This is education, right? This is not only member education, this is pastoral education that we got to take care of ourselves. Here are some risk factors. We got to be aware of them. And the more we are aware of these risk factors, the higher the tendency for us to do something about it. And in this health pastoral project, I mean, just doing the survey, we're going to learn a little bit more about the implications behind what we found from that. But this is all good information because a healthy pastor can really bring and produce a healthy church.
Hey, well, Stephanie, listen, if somebody's just joining us, perhaps even for the first time, and they're getting this information, this is information that we provide season after season here at the Pastors Roundtable. If there's somebody who says, man, this is awesome, I want to find out more, what else have you guys talked about? What are some of the other topics that have been? Who are some of the other guests? Where can they go to find out or to listen in on some more of these fantastic conversations that we have here at the Pastors Roundtable?
So they can go to our website at the PRT Live, the PRT Live, and every episode that ever existed is there.
Live.
Dot live?
Live. PRT.live. Yes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
There's a little delay, I think, but they can find programs on YouTube. We have a web page, and we have. I think I counted that there are. I want to say 141. We're getting to 140 some odd episodes. So we are going to have to do a
Wow.
celebration when we hit our 150th episode. But I actually went back and counted them all,
I've never counted
and so. I have.
Wow.
So there's a lot of good information, a lot of shows covering everything from pastoral family relationships, urban ministries, and we could go on and on. So we encourage you to go to our website to check some of those other programs out.
Awesome, awesome.
So you said
Doug, if you want to,
141 episodes? That's what she said?
something
I
like
think it's
that, yes.
141. Yeah.
Woo.
Wow.
Wow, wow. Well, we've been on this for a while. Now, Pastor Paul, if they want to support the Pastors
Oh,
Roundtable, now
mercy.
I know they can go to the website. I know they can go to the
Yes.
website because I said, let me check the website. I know they can put down support PRT, and we take Cash App. I saw that there. Not only do we take Cash App, I'm looking right here.
Yeah,
We
you're looking
take
at it.
PayPal.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
looking at it right here. All right.
Okay.
And listen, your support of Pastors Roundtable really helps us out. So please continue to support us as we do ministry relevant, resource, and real.
Hey, and listen, we want
Yes.
to thank so many of you who have taken the time out to send a few dollars our way, some resources our way. We appreciate you so very much. We are not funded by any conference. We're not funded by any the organization that funds us is right here in these boxes when you see us here, and we really appreciate your support. It takes more money, I think, than we thought when we started to make this work.
Yeah.
Um, but your support and your gifts over the time have been really helpful, and so we just want to encourage you, if you've been blessed by the Pastors Roundtable, take advantage of that. Go to the website, hit that support page, and take the time out to support the ministry that we provide for you week after week, season after season, 140 something episodes, and we thank you
Right.
so much. Listen, what else do we need to let folk know right now, Dion? We're Dr. Henry. We got a little bit left. What can they do if they haven't done it yet?
Listen, let's share. We only have about
Mm.
25 minutes left. It's time to share. Share the feed. Share. Share it with your elders, your elder board. They need to know about this. Protect your pastor, he or she. You want them to be protected. Share it with your members. Please share it because, again, a healthy pastor, healthy church.
All right. And
Yes.
listen, there's going to be a link that you guys we're going to put up on the screen that has to do with one of these pastors' health surveys. It's coming out of this project, so look for that. I haven't seen it yet in the chat, but it's coming up in just a little while. So
Yeah.
I want you to copy that link when it comes up on screen so that you can follow along with
Yeah.
some of the project that we've been talking about tonight. All right, we ready to bring
The
our
survey link
guest?
is there.
It's in there.
The survey link.
It's already there.
Yes.
Oh, there it is.
Okay.
Oh, I don't see it yet, but okay, there it is. Boom. Ah, right there. I'm going to put it up again. I'm going to keep putting it up for a time where you can go and check that out. Let's bring our guests back in right now. If you're just joining us, our guest tonight, Dr. Christopher C. Thompson, Kathleen Woodfork Coleman, and Dr. Anthony Medley. We are excited and delighted to have all of you with us tonight. Thank you so much for your contribution so far. And we're just going to jump back in. I don't know if we kind of left in the middle of something or if somebody had another thought to share, or are we
That's
ready to go to the next question? I'm
well,
not sure.
well, let's go to the next question there. Right there, let's talk about what are some of the health risk factors? What can pastors do to avoid some of their health risk factors? And is there anything that members can do to help? I think we're right there, somewhere around that area there.
Okay.
So maybe we'll talk to
Well,
Dr.
I'll
Medley
take.
and talk a little bit about that. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris. And then we'll go
Go
to
ahead.
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah.
Medley.
I was just going to say, I mentioned before that I've always been mindful of my health. I've always tried to stay active and stay healthy. But it was really a major turning point in my life when I lost my dad. And I remember right after my father committed suicide. Y'all remember that scene on Shawshank Redemption where Andy Dufresne is like, "Yeah, get busy living or get busy dying," you know. And that year was when I ran my first marathon. That I said, I really want to live the life and demonstrate, a healthy lifestyle and live the life that I want to live rather than watching myself waste away. But there's another side to that. My father was diabetic. My mother is pre-diabetic. And so it's It's just a reminder that I need to be actively engaged in making sure that I'm doing the things that make for a healthy lifestyle. But right along the lines of that, I'm starting to get a little bit older. I just saw my first gray right here, and and I'm realizing that it means that I
Come
got
on, man.
to.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
It's no disrespect.
I'm sitting right here, man. I'm right in front of you. Come on, man.
But it speaks to the fact that we're not getting younger, and we just had a pastor just the other week who passed away at 36 years old. And so I'm mindful of the stress level. I'm mindful. I love the two words that we got, two buzzwords tonight: imbalance, balance, and boundaries. Right? We can't live these imbalanced lives. We can't live without boundaries. And so I'm really just trying to take those steps to maintain balance, maintain my health, and to model for the members the kind of life. And so what can the members do? They can support the pastor and encourage the pastor to, hey, pastor, I do want to see you run that marathon. Pastor, I do want to see you finish the Ironman triathlon. Pastor, did you eat? I did have a member when I first started out, little short lady, everybody in the community calls her Gigi. And she used to say to me, did you eat today? And she said that to me knowing that I had a tendency to overwork. And so members can check in. Members can encourage the pastor on his journey. One last thing, and then I'm going to be quiet. After my father committed suicide, I pursued counseling and therapy, and so I spent about a 4-year journey, really, going through therapy and doing that deep therapeutic work to address any number of issues, right? Several issues that had been mounting, including processing the death of my father. So it just made me to stop, recalibrate, and now at this stage of my life, I'm realizing the need to do that so much more.
Wow.
Can I ask a
Mercy.
question? Within the study, and this can be just an after question, but I was just wondering, were there any distinctions in health disparities between or health challenges or some of the things that you've seen between our female pastors versus our male pastors? Is it the same? Are you seeing different health issues?
Kathy, you want to
You
address
know,
that?
you raise a really good question, and that has just recently come up, especially after we had the Women's Pastors Convention this last October. Heretofore, there has not been a lot of distinction, but the intent from now on is to be sure that we look at gender issues as well as ethnicity. We want to be sure that we are addressing the specific needs that need to be met. Um, we really want our pastors to be healthy. Um, we have a mandate, each of us, whether we're a pastor or not, from God to take care of our bodies. And while the church has a responsibility, I just want to encourage more pastors to do what Dr. Thompson is doing and what Dr. Medley is doing in evaluating their own health situation and looking at how they can make changes. We have, I understand, a really good insurance package through Adventist Risk Management. We are actually, our committee is actually working with risk management to be sure that pastors are aware of the fact that they can go and be covered and get massages, and they can join a gym. There are things that the insurance um, really emphasizes, and we want our pastors to take full advantage of all of these things. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that pastors oftentimes just don't take time. They feel that their calling is so important. They put all of their energies in their work. And we do
Mm-hmm.
want them to be balanced. We want them to take vacations. And one of the things that this committee has done, when we found out that pastors were not taking vacations, especially because of financial issues, we did a search on locations that pastors could go to,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it not be as expensive. We on our website right now, you can go to our website and find a pastor retreat center database where they can look at camps and retreat centers all over the nation. And I like to say there's one near you where you can go, and they have such high regard for what pastors do. They have discounts for pastors. And we can just encourage our pastors to participate, to take time for themselves and their families. They need that time away to regroup, to refresh. Um, and so maybe at some point we can even have incentives for pastors who take their vacations regularly. But our pastors, we want them to evaluate where they are and to look at their own personal needs. And we want to work with them to be sure that those needs are met, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. And I like what Dr. Thompson said. We have to look at our mental health status. Oftentimes we're so concerned about our physical health that we neglect what's going on with us mentally. If we're stressed, or if we have experienced trauma, or there are other issues of burnout, there are resources that we have available. There is a resource that is called the Ministry Care Line. It comes out of the Kettering Hospital System. It is a telehealth phone system and a Zoom conferencing platform. And they have the opportunity to utilize this benefit free of charge. And so we have this information also listed on our website. One thing that I found out when we were attending PELC and we were relating to pastor after pastor is that they're totally unaware of the website, the NAD ministerial website, and all of the wonderful resources that have been placed there, not just for the pastor, but for the spouse and for the children as well. We need to be sure that the information is out there to the pastor and that they know where to go get this information.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Sounds good. I have a quick question that I want to ask. So, we're talking about the study, and and we see the survey. It's on there. It was on our our feed just a while ago. How many people that you currently have that have taken the study, and when are we going to, or is there a point where, we'll be furnished all of the results from the study, or is it just an ongoing study? Can you tell me a little bit about um, how the committee is undertaking this type of project? And I want to go to Dr. Medley, if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I want you to know that prioritizing pastors' health is an initiative that started with Dr. Ivan Williams. So it's a new initiative, although it's been going on for a few years. He pulled in Loma Linda, Andrews, and others who have been doing comprehensive studies on Seventh day Adventists. So prioritizing health is kind of the newest initiative that is taking place, and it's still ongoing. A lot of the research is still being conducted, data is still being gathered. So it's progressive. It's not all conclusive yet. There's not a whole lot of history to point back to, but it's constantly coming in and moving forward. So I believe that you will hear more about the studies, the research, the participations, and so forth as we move further into 24 and 25. And the NAD can speak to that more than I can because, again, they're the ones who are spearheading this. So I don't want to go too far down the road with that question. If that answers your question.
Right. Okay. So it's an ongoing study, and okay, just wanted to get that information out, just to probably encourage more pastors to take it, so that you'll have more data to pull from, as you bring out some of the implications regarding the results from it. There's a question also in the chat. I think it's from Natasha Richards, who's also an alumnus of Pastors Roundtable there. But she asked a good question, because we do have seminarians that are, watching this program, just to kind of get a feel for ministry, trying to understand a few things, before they get out into the pastoral or the parish. And so she asked a question in the chat: as you have served in the field, what advice will you give to the seminarian, and what would you have liked to know before you left seminary? Okay, so we're dealing with Pastor's Health. Pastor Thompson, Dr. Thompson, if you could address some of that. What advice do we want to give to the seminarians coming out, and what would you have liked to know before you came out of the seminary that you know now, especially in regards to this pastoral health?
Well, let me first give a little bit of a disclaimer and say that I did not attend Andrews Seminary. Oakwood was so nice. I went twice. I got my master's from Oakwood,
Okay.
and doctorate at a Methodist school. We didn't have any classes about self-care. We had a class about mental health and wellness. We had courses, I should say, about mental health and wellness, but it was about delivering basic pastoral counseling services. It hardly dealt with our own health, and we weren't actually taught formally, strategically, how to care for ourselves and how to prioritize our own health and well-being. It's kind of like it's something that's caught rather than taught, and it's caught because you are lucky enough to be around healthy people, or you run into a wall and you realize, wait a minute, I'm not Iron Man, I'm not a superhero, or you just realize your own limitations some other way, right? My advice, the advice that I would give is, number one, your first ministry is to your family, right? And we say that, it's almost cliche, it's almost, trite, but, if your first ministry is to your family, you cannot minister to anybody, including your family, if you are not emotionally, physically, spiritually healthy and balanced. And so my first work has to be my relationship with God, my relationship and with myself, and then my relationship with my family. If the unit is not tight, then I'm not going to be able to minister effectively to anyone else. I would strongly encourage any and every pastor. Dr. Medley, we all honor him. He has martial arts. For when I could dunk, it was basketball. I can't dunk no more. So now it's running and walking and cycling and swimming sometimes. I would strongly recommend every pastor to find the thing that feeds him or her. Find the thing that feeds you, pours into you. You know, it's physical activity, but it's hobbies and stuff as well. Photography, writing. You got to have the stuff that pours back into you. You're constantly pouring out. What are the things that pour back into you? Eating healthy and eating, period. We talked about skipping meals, pours back into you. Your hobbies, your interests pours back into you. Healthy, taking time to exercise pours back into you. If you're not pouring back into yourself consistently as you're pouring out to others, you are going to end up empty. You are going to end up broken. You're not going to be able to serve. And so find that thing that pours
Mm-hmm.
into you, prioritize your health, and make sure that you are ministering to yourself and your family first. And if you're not doing that, you're not going to be effective otherwise.
Wow. All right. So we coming down. So Sister Kathleen Woodfork, Coleman, if you're talking to a seminarian coming out into the field, you're talking to pastors who just are coming into the field. What would you like them to know in regards to their health and regards to the resources that are out there?
Well, I would like to echo what Dr. Thompson said. Self-care is a huge issue. There's never a time when self-care is selfish. When you take care of yourself, then you can better take care of others. But if you
Right.
neglect yourself, you'll be empty and you will not be able to give that care. And so starting your ministry on the right foot is really important. And looking, you know, there are, I'm a PK and I was a blessed PK, but I know that there are some PKs out there that are broken because the priority for the family was not there.
Mm-hmm.
When pastors go through the pearly gates, God is going to be asking you, where are your lambs? Where is your family? That is your utmost responsibility. Besides yourself, I like Christopher's um, when he said, God first, you personally second, your family, and then others. We've
Wow.
got to get that on target. And if you start your ministry that way, if you start with boundaries, understanding boundaries, and helping educate your church members, you will go a long way with success.
All right. Dr. Medley, you're last. What would you tell the seminarians, people coming out into the field in regards to their health?
I would tell the seminarians to take advantage of the resources that are in the seminary, especially the counseling component. I think every seminarian should go through a counseling series themselves to destigmatize counseling, the need to reaching out for help, to talking to other professionals about themselves. That is a must. So if they start there, then it will help them when they come out to make sure that those professionals are available in their churches. But more importantly, it tells your congregation that it's okay to have a therapist, to have a counselor, to see someone. And it also shows the human side of ministry when we do that. So I would start with that. For the young pastor coming out for their holistic health, it's basic stuff. Please understand that holistic health starts between your ears first. Your thinking, your processing, that's where health starts. And for someone who is holistic, you go from your ears and then it goes to the kitchen. So how you fuel your temple is determined by what you do in the kitchen. And then pastors have a sedentary lifestyle. Just move. Find ways to move every day.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, I want to thank you all so much for being a part of the Pastors Roundtable. Again, if you want to know more information about this project, please, we ask that you look at our website. I think if you look at the comments, you'll see the survey there. If you're a pastor, about the Healthy Pastors Project, we encourage you to take it, because the more information that we receive, the better implications we'll be able to discuss because of the size of our participants. Pastor Paul, if you want to take us out, sir.
Hey, listen, I just before we go, Dr. Henry, you are a pastor as well. How would you answer that question? I'm sorry, I know you're not a guest, but you're a host. But you're in the grind or in the front lines right now. I know somebody just said we got to stop glorifying and deifying the grind.
Right.
But if you were answering that question, Dr. Henry, what would you share with that young pastor, that young seminarian?
Okay, well, I want to echo what was said, but I want to emphasize this: know the resources. So if you're coming out, you got to get with the HR. You want to know all of the benefits and all of the resources that are available to you, because that is what's going to help you. So many times we come out, we don't even know the resources. We don't know that these things are taking place. We have to watch the Pastors Roundtable, to find out about these things. So go to your HR, go to the HR, go to your ministerial director, be proactive, go to these individuals so that you will know their resources so that you can be healthy. Because again, healthy pastors make healthy churches.
Yeah, good. Good stuff, good stuff. If I would just add a little bit to that, just the personal experience, it feels like just yesterday that I was in seminary. And on one hand, I just turned 50 years old. It felt like I was sitting in that first year of class in seminary, driving through the snow in Berrien Springs, from Baroda to Berrien Springs. But it's like this, that time goes by. And now I get out of bed and I got stuff hurting now that I didn't even know I had. There's stuff that just, y'all see all of this and all of that. This time creeps up on you so very fast. You're 27, 26, 25 years old right now. It's going to be a blink of a moment before you can't dunk anymore, Chris. It's going to happen so very quickly. And so every moment, every minute counts to do the best that you can with what God has given us. So that would just be my encouragement. Make use of your time. Time is precious. It doesn't come back twice. You've got what you've got in front of you. Use it to the best of your ability. To our guests today, Dr. Thompson, Ms. Coleman, Dr. Medley, again, thank you so very much for taking the time to join us tonight on a Friday night, this time on the Pastors Roundtable. We know that our audience has been blessed by your contribution to this discussion and will continue to be blessed as they delve into the resources that you've shared with us tonight. If you're watching tonight or watching this on the replay, make sure you go to the Pastors Roundtable, the PRT.live, and see the show notes for today, where we will have some of the other links and some of the other resources that will accompany this discussion today. We thank you and our guest. Don't miss us on next week. We're going to be back next week, same time, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, as we're talking about the 2025 project. You do not want to miss that show, that discussion. Make sure that you come and that you bring somebody with you. We've got some great guests that are going to be with us on next week. Thank you for helping us to make the Pastors Roundtable relevant. We didn't say who was doing that.
I'm resourced.
And real. God bless. We'll see you next week.
God bless you, everybody.